Hello, everyone, and welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. First and foremost, let us introduce ourselves. I am Dylan, one of your hosts.
And I'm Kelsey, your other host.
Yeah, we got those intros in early because every week I forget to introduce ourselves, assuming you all know who we are, which maybe some of you do if you're recurring listeners. Thank you very much. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. We were talking about WandaVision, and funny enough, I didn't write the episode name on my sheet because I was rushing my notes and so focused on so many other things that I forgot to even look at the episode title. So please, Kelsey, let us know what the episode title for this episode is.
The title of episode 7 is Breaking the Fourth Wall.
I actually did know that for some reason. I guess I just forgot about it on air. So that is the name of the episode, which we will be discussing in a little bit. But as always, we do have our marvelous headlines of the week to discuss. So Kelsey, why don't you take us away first with your headline in the news of Marvel? It could be MCU, anything else in the Marvel sphere, wherever you want.
Well, my news comes from the MCU Twitter account. At some point this week, I believe on February 16th, we got news that the MCU is releasing a new docu-series called Assembled, where they're going to be taking us behind the scenes of the making of a bunch of shows. I'm guessing, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, things like this, but they're going to be starting it off with WandaVision starting on March 12th. So that's going to be really exciting to look at. We'll be able to see everything that went in behind the scenes of these episodes, which is so fun because I'm honestly, every time I'm watching these episodes, I'm just thinking to myself, oh my goodness, how do they do that? Like the movie magic in this show is just blowing my mind constantly. So I'm definitely really excited for that.
Nice. I'm excited for that too. I didn't know that was actually happening, so that's like exciting news. Sometimes your news is stuff that I've already heard. I'm like, oh, I heard that, but I'll play along. But now, like, I actually haven't heard about that, so that's gonna be cool.
Well,
we do have a show. We do have a show scheduled for that week that is not related to WandaVision. But if we want to, in the very beginning, just mention a few things that we thought were cool, or we could push it to the next week. Our schedule is jam-packed because we have one show to the next. We have 1 week in between, and that week we are doing, as we said last week, our villains ranking, our MCU villains ranking. But we now have something that we will actually be watching on Disney Plus that week too. So lots of good Marvel stuff coming that we will be covering all of it. So my headline, it is about the new Doctor Strange movie, Sam Raimi's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And some of you guys don't really... like you said, Kelsey, it's so great to see what goes on behind the scenes and what makes up the foundations of these movies. And one of the things I think is most impressive about Marvel that doesn't get talked about a lot is the music. And it was announced this week that Danny Elfman will be doing the score for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Now, for those of you who don't know who Danny Elfman is, he did the score for the Batman 1989 soundtrack or score. He did the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy music, so he has had his fair share in the superhero world doing scores for superhero movies, and he will be returning with Sam Raimi, who did direct the Spider-Man movies, as the person doing the music. So I think we're going to get some pretty freaking awesome music, if I do say so myself.
That's exciting. I love a good soundtrack. You know me. Guardians of the Galaxy is on repeat at my house, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I feel like Guardians gets all the attention because they're songs that people knew, but there's so much good music. I mean, in Endgame, that song that plays when the portals are all opening and the music that's just, the music makes the movie. If you watch that scene on mute, it's just not as good. Exactly. It's great, but it's not as good. So Danny Elfman will be back. So any of you guys who are Danny Elfman fans, he's also done a ton of other movies. He works with Tim Burton a lot. He did like the Alice in Wonderland score. That's really, really good. The new one, even though the movie sucks, he's good. He was the voice of Jack Skellington in The Nightmare Before Christmas. Actually, I don't know if that's true. Let me check. Kelsey, what were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that also, especially because Doctor Strange is going to be the first horror movie in the MCU, music definitely makes a horror movie. It gives it that extra element for sure. So that's extra exciting.
So you have Sam Raimi, who is a horror director, Evil Dead, coming in, doing another superhero movie after Spider-Man movies with the Spider-Man movie score person, Danny Elfman, composer. That's the word, not score person. And yes, he is the singing voice of Jack Skellington. I did check, so I just want to make sure I fact check myself before people start coming at me. But speaking of, I appreciate all the love and comments. We are not experts, so whenever you guys correct us, please do, because sometimes we'll say things that are just totally not right. But that's the beauty of a podcast, just being able to talk. And if we get things wrong, we get things wrong. We appreciate all you listening and telling us, hey, you forgot to mention this or that, or hey, no, that's not that comic book, that's this one. We really appreciate it. We do. And we love your continued support. So let's get into this. Let's break the fourth wall, Kelsey. We've already been, because we've been talking to all of you out on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Hello. Or audio on podcasts. Hello. We were breaking the fourth wall to bring you this episode, which was pretty interesting. We got some answers. We got some
answers, but did we though? So let's I'll get into my synopsis. This is a word that is going to trip me up every week. It's not going to get better. So if you're waiting for it to get better, it won't.
You can say summary.
I can also say summary. That's true. But you know what? I like it. I like a good challenge. So my synopsis. Here we go. It's the day after Halloween, and Wanda is having a case of the Mondays. Vision and Darcy use each other to get answers about Westview. Hayward plans his next attack, while Jimmy and Monica attempt to get back inside the Hex. The twins spend the day with Agnes, and we find out there's another witch in town.
Wow, that is a good synopsis. I mean, obviously it gives away the big plot point at the end, so like you have to watch the episode to know, but like that's like a good, like I hear that and I'm intrigued. Like that's a good, they should hire you, Kels, to write your synopsis.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Or synopses. Synopsis. I don't know. It's early in the morning. It's 9 a.m. on a Monday, so
yeah, please forgive us.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead, Kels. What is what let's go beat by beat. Let's dive into this episode because there's a lot to talk about.
All right, so we start with a cold open. Wanda wakes up alone. She reaches out for Vision. He's not there. Billy and Tommy come running in to tell her that their game controllers are freaking out, and we find out that there's some glitching happening in the house. They go through, the controllers morph through different game console controllers throughout the decades, as we saw this show progress through. Billy says that his head is noisy. And it is, we find out that in this moment that it is in fact the morning after Halloween, because Wanda takes the covers off and she is still in her Halloween outfit from the last episode. Then she goes to the fridge where she makes herself a bowl of cereal. We see that when she opens the fridge, she goes for a bottle of almond milk, and she's eating a cereal called Sugar Snaps. And then when she turns around, the almond milk changes into regular milk. The box of regular milk has a missing child on the back, and then the regular milk changes into a 1950s black and white milk bottle that Wanda notices. So obviously a lot of freaky stuff happening this episode that she can't really control or make sense of. And then we go into our theme song, our pseudo office theme song.
Yeah. So I think first we got to talk about the inspirations. Obviously, we see a lot of that breaking the fourth wall that we've seen in the thousands. We see with Modern Family, which is kind of the aesthetic I think they're building. We see it with The Office. We see Parks and Rec. We see this kind of style in the whole episode. I don't think there's one specific sitcom it's definitely replicating. The theme song was definitely The Office. Interesting that it was all just Wanda, though, until the very end they popped in the Vision, because it's becoming clearer and clearer that this is Wanda's story and Vision just happens to be a prop in the universe. You know, earlier in the series it was kind of like, you know, the two of their stories, but now it's really become Wanda's story, and Vision is such a big part of it, but this is Wanda's story. You know, we are following her mind, her point of view on the situation, and we have these moments with Vision, but I think Vision got a little sidelined this episode. I think you know, he got answers, as we'll talk about later. He got answers, but I do think this was mostly about Wanda, you know, coming off of that really intense episode from last time where she finds out, you know, Pietro is not my brother. This is not my brother. Okay, we got that. We've established that in the last episode, but she confirms it here that she's like, yeah, no, that's not him. And she wakes up in that costume. It's almost like waking up from a bad hangover. You know, you know, you have this really groggy, you know, worn out, you're just tired. The kids are in, she's like 5 more minutes or whatever. Yeah. So I think this is a episode that is kind of bridging this epic moment with Vision escaping, and then Quicksilver coming at, you have that big moment from the last few episodes, the big hex expanding, and now it's kind of like, now we're simmering, now we're kind of just like coming off of those events. We're leading to a finale, but we're not quite there yet. So we're like in that middle bridge. It's like the 11 o'clock number. It's like the number right before the grand finale in a musical. It's like where there's a little tiny little twist at the end where it really propels us into the final act. But like, this is not, I don't want to say the low point, because there were some great moments in this episode, but I do think this was kind of the breathing point. This was the episode where we kind of just got to breathe. We had a great moment with Monica and a great moment with Agnes, but otherwise it was just kind of, let's just breathe for a second. Let's just take a breath before we head into our big finale. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you're watching on a weekly basis, you're expecting every episode to just keep upping. And now I feel like this was the one where we kind of just let things simmer, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely think we see that in this episode.
Also, you could look at it in a way of like, she's been using her powers pretty much around the clock for, the past week or so now, or a few months now. I'm not sure how quickly time passes in Westview, and she just used her powers yesterday. Not yesterday, our time, yesterday, Westview time, to extend the borders and save Vision. So to look at it like that, she could be actually very, like, actually physically exhausted, like literally,
right.
And wanting to stay in bed and not doing anything. And then on top of her now dealing with, why is my house glitching? Why are things going back to the style of previous episodes? It can be, it's definitely a challenge. It's definitely another obstacle for Wanda to get over here.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an episode that is more focused on the other characters than Wanda and Vision themselves. Kind of like how episode 4 was, when we saw everything was Sword. The whole movie, the whole episode was told from Sword's point of view and what was going on in Sword. I think this is kind of the same thing, where it's like, now let's focus on Agatha and Monica. We've been correcting ourselves in the past, but now we don't have to. Right. Monica and Agatha, this is really more about them and kind of the kids than it was really about Wanda and Vision, because Wanda's just like, I just need to relax. Like, I just need a breath. And then Vision's just like, I'm confused. Fill me in on what's going on. So now Wanda and Vision are now kind of not the side characters, but they are the lesser important arcs of this particular episode.
Right.
In my opinion. Yeah.
So we start outside of Westview. We start with Sword, where we find out that Tyler is preparing. He says, we launch today. And we find out that they're no longer picking up a broadcast. So even though this style of, television series is still happening in Westview, the people outside of Westview are no longer watching it. They're not getting these kitschy little moments of Wanda breaking the fourth wall and talking to the camera, which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, and I won't jump too far ahead, but I do think this is the end of the sitcom. Like, I really do think this is the last of the sitcom style we'll see, because we're kind of up to date. Like, we kind of expanded a little bit into the 2010s too, because that's when Modern Family was, I don't know if Modern Family was the 2000s or the 2010s, but we had a little bit of Malcolm in the Middle, which was early 2000s. Now this is like mid 2000s into 2010. So I think we're like caught up with the sitcom. And I think, not to jump ahead, but because we got a post-credit scene, I think that's them telling us, all right, now we're past the sitcom. Now this is full cinematic universe. This is now in full cinema territory. Like, this is where we're diving into a more movie-like setup. And I think that's why the rumors are that these episodes are going to get longer. The last 2 episodes are going to be longer, because this is now, we're done with the sitcoms. Now this is, a post-credit scene where we're reminding you that this is now, we're back in the MCU with a C, the cinematicness. Cinematicness. I don't even know if that's a word, but, we're fully in cinematicness mode. So I thought it was really interesting. The sitcom stuff, not as much. I mean, it was just kind of like, as I said, as we're getting closer and closer to today's style of sitcoms, it's not becoming as niche and as like unique and as separate from the rest of the universe. So I'm just like, it was fine. So let's keep going with I think the next scene is with the kids, right?
The next scene, we're actually outside the circus with Vision and Darcy.
Oh, that's right.
This muscle man, it looks like maybe someone who's the world's strongest man or something. That might be his whole act. Comes up to Vision. He asks him if he's the new clown. He has an S on his belt, which I took note of. He's mistaken for a clown whose act is with the escape artist, Darcy. So we see what happened to Darcy after she was taken over by the Hex. She became an escape artist in the circus with chains all over her, and Vision walks up to her to talk to her, and Darcy thinks that he's flirting with her, rejects him, and walks away.
We
Now
locked
we're
eyes last night. Yeah.
yeah, we had a connection, we had a moment. She's like,
Connection. Yeah.
I'm gonna pass. Now we're in the house, scene 3, where Wanda asks Tommy and Billy, "Have you seen your father?" They both say no. Billy says, "Do you want to go look for him?" Wanda says, "If he doesn't want to be here, there's nothing I can do about it," which is strange because there's absolutely something she can do about it. But
Yeah.
we'll get into that later, I guess.
Right.
Billy asks about Uncle P, and that's when we find out. We hear Wanda say, "Don't believe anything that man said. He is not your uncle." And then Tommy asks, "Who is she?" And then Wanda, or who is he, rather? My bad. And Wanda goes into this whole spiel about how, even though I'm your mother, you might think that I have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I don't have anything to offer you.
Yeah.
And she says, "I'm starting to believe that everything is meaningless." And then we hear the doorbell. Wanda opens the door with her powers, and before even seeing her, she says, "Hey, Agnes, come on in." So, they're still following I guess, their sick communist protocols where it happens because this is the way Wanda's written it in her brain. They're not even
Hmm.
trying to hide it anymore, especially since Vision isn't around. They don't really have to hide anything. Um, Agnes takes and then Agnes says, "You know what? Let's give your mom a day to herself. You can come over to my house." And Wanda is left alone and the house starts glitching again.
Right.
Then we cut to scene 4 with Jimmy and Monica. Jimmy confirms that Hayward was trying to rebuild Vision. Nothing worked until Wanda took it, basically. We find out from their conversation in the car. And we meet a Major Goodner, someone
Yes.
who also knew Marie. Now, was this the aerospace engineer we've all been waiting for? Because
Well,
what
I
a
think we have.
letdown.
Yeah, I think we have to talk about that because everyone was saying, "Oh, it's gonna be Reed Richards. It's gonna be John Krasinski." Like, I don't know where all these rumors came from. It just seemed like one day no one was talking about it and maybe speculating, and then the next day it was like, "No, John Krasinski's in the show. It's happening." And then the Office theme song comes, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's coming. He's coming." I'm
Oh
like,
man, Dill. When
"What?"
I when I was like, "Oh my god, office style episode," they cut to the scene, they're like driving to the military base. I was like, if I see John Krasinski right now, I will lose my freaking marbles because this would be perfect. This would be a perfect episode to wrap him in on all this.
I mean,
But
I don't know if it's all just rumored casting or fan casting.
I
Like,
think
I never
it's
even
all
thought.
hearsay.
Yeah, like I never even like heard anything about him joining this universe. I'd be all for it. I'd be happy. As I said last week, like I love his role in The Office. I think he's
Mhm.
great in all the other stuff he's doing with The Quiet Place and Jack Ryan and all that stuff. But it's like hadn't heard about it. And Fantastic Four is a little ways away. Like, sure they could introduce him here, but I feel like when you start bringing in too much, it becomes
Right.
less about Wanda and Vision. And I feel like that's where I was worried it was going with Pietro. Bringing in the X-Men, but then we kind of had that debunked where it's like, no, this isn't the X-Men Pietro. This is, as we've seen, spoiler alert, at the end of the episode, it's a prop of Agnes's. It's someone Agnes made up or plucked from. It could be the X-Men universe, but it's more about his function in the story than introducing this X-Men crossover. And I
Mhm.
don't think we're necessarily going to get to the Fantastic Four. If we do, great. But yeah, I wasn't ever banking on that. But when they did have the Office style opening and they kept hyping up for now 2 or 3 episodes, I know this aerospace engineer. Um, yeah, is it a letdown? No, because I really wasn't getting my hopes up. But for other
Right.
people, it was. I think Major Goodner is a fine character. I don't think she's going to be like a main character by any
Right.
means.
I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't necessarily I mean, it would have been so freaking awesome if it was John Krasinski. I wasn't even really expecting it to be someone I knew, but I thought it was going to be, a character like Tyler Hayward that gets introduced where we're kind of like, okay, he's going to be important. I'm putting him in the back of my mind, even though I didn't, and I referred to him as white guy for the
Mhm.
first few episodes of the show. But I thought that I thought that they were going to be more significant than this kind of just another run of the mill
Right.
person. And
It's
thinking back to when she was even talking about the aerospace engineer, she always referred to him almost as if it was going to be a man. She
like
said
that's
like,
our
"Oh,
guy. Yeah.
my guy," things like that. So I wasn't expecting it to be a woman, this Major Goodman character. So that almost makes me think that it's maybe not her, and maybe the aerospace engineer sent this team of people to do the thing, and he himself
Could
didn't
be.
follow through with the mission because he's like, I'm
Yeah.
too sciencey and important. I must stay in the lab, and you
Right.
will all go. You know?
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting also that like what they gave her. I mean, aside from the suit, and she didn't even wear the helmet when she went into the hex.
Mhm.
The aerospace engineer and this whole group and Major Goodner, like they really didn't do much for her because that giant tank like vehicle, I don't know
Mhm.
what it was called, but it didn't get through. It
Mhm.
didn't work. So it's
Yeah.
almost like you've been hyping this up for so long. Now it's like we're here. We've seen our people. This is the resolution, and then it's like, oh no, we failed. All right, I'm just gonna go in alone. And it's like, did we
Yeah.
need all that build up, or could she have just been like, you know what, I'm going in and just
Yeah.
gone in? And it's like, oh, let me just drop off the suit. Like, did we need the car and did we need the build
Right.
up for it to just be, I'm just gonna go in myself, which is great. I think that is an amazing moment. Are we there yet, or is that later on in the episode? That moment.
That's later on, but I will
Okay.
say that I agree with you, Dale. I feel like upon learning when Darcy told her that her cells had been rewritten, she should have just been like, "Oh, so now I have this extra thing about me that would probably get me through the hex again."
Mhm.
Because it
I
was.
would have.
I agree with you. Like this whole like sequence of scenes, like with the military base, was like very messy, and I feel like almost unnecessary a little bit.
Well, I do think honestly the most intriguing moments of the episode was the Monica stuff. I just don't
Mhm.
think we had to go through the whole process of I gotta call my base, I gotta get this, get that. If she needed the suit to get into the hex, that's different. And then if she had showed up and they'd been like, "Here's your suit, we have it. Your aerospace engineer gave you the suit. Go on
Mhm.
in. You've got this." I think
Right.
it would have been fine. But the fact that they're building it up and then it's like, "Oh, here's this huge truck," and then it's like, "Nah, it didn't work. I'm just gonna go in anyway." I wish it had just been, hey, here's your suit. Go ahead, do it. And I get it. Like I get, you have an episode and you want to like kind of like subvert expectations at times, but I feel like for the amount of buildup they had, this didn't really seem like it delivered on it. But I will say Monica's stuff is probably the most interesting stuff in the episode. I mean, obviously the ending was great, but I think Monica herself, this character exploration and this whole journey of her becoming, I don't want to spoil who it is for those who don't read the comics or, we can basically say for her becoming Spectrum, it's awesome. It's really cool
Mhm.
to see,
Mhm.
especially since we know her mom was Photon, and we didn't get to see that. I'm hoping we see it in Captain Marvel too. But if we don't, I said when that happened, when we found out she died, I was like, I feel like we were robbed a great Maria Rambeau story.
Mhm.
So I'm just glad they're going that direction with Monica. I
Right.
just wish the buildup had been worth a bigger payoff, or the payoff could have just been that suit. Because if that's the main objective, is to give Monica the suit to go into the hex, why did you have to do all the car stuff? Why did you have to, spend so much time on that? But
No, I agree. So then we cut back to Vision at the circus where he
mm,
snaps Darcy awake back into reality. So she becomes Darcy again, and she says, "Secretly, part of me wanted a guest spot on this show, but seriously, that sucked." And then Darcy punches the muscle man in the face, and her and Vision break out of the circus because for a hot minute he's like, "No, where are you going? You're on like next or whatever."
yeah,
So then they break free from the circus. Uh, Scene 6, we're back at home with Wanda. The house keeps glitching. We're seeing it cut back to previous styles from the later episodes. The
right.
stork comes
The
back
stork. Yep, he's
from the
back.
70s style episode, and in her talking head, we hear her say, "I don't know why it's falling apart, and I don't know why I can't fix it." And then a member of the camera crew talks from behind the camera. "Do you think it's because it's what you deserve?" And Wanda says, "What? You're not supposed to talk."
Uh huh.
So,
And we later know who that is,
and
but
we
I
later
thought it
find
was
out who that
interesting
is, but
that they used a different voice too, which was interesting.
well, because I feel like her voice as an actor is so distinct that had
Right.
we heard her talking behind the camera, we would have known it was her right
Mm,
away.
yeah.
Um, then we cut to our commercial, which is
Right.
for an
And we can chat about this now. I mean, it's kind of an Easter egg, but
yeah.
explain the commercial for us, Kels.
Sure. So it's for an antidepressant called Nexus, with the two actors that we've been seeing from the first 5 commercials,
Hmm.
and it says, "Anchors you back to this is the tagline for the pill, "Anchors you back to reality or the reality of your choice." And then the
Mm.
tagline is, "Because the world doesn't revolve around you, or does it?" Now, Jill, did you look into Nexus at all? Because I sure
I
did.
did. I did. I all I got from it, the grand scheme, you can explain it more in depth, but it's a magical gateway. Nexus is a magical gateway to another alternate dimension. And we've been
Mhm.
talking about this idea of alternate dimensions with the X-Men thing. Is this the X-Men Quicksilver? Is this just Evan Peters playing this version of Quicksilver? We weren't sure. Maybe
Mhm.
that was a way to tease that a multiverse thing is coming. We've gotten the talks about Spider-Man being a multiverse thing. But I think this is really where it's going to be like, hey, no, this is it. This is happening. The multiverse, like it's
Right.
happening. Here's
Yeah.
Nexus. Explain it a little more in depth if you have any other information, because I know the very grand scheme of it.
Right.
Um,
Well, this is all I found out about it. It's a cross-dimensional gateway to any and all possible realities, and
there you go.
they made a note in the wiki fandom page that I read about it, was that it's unclear if it was made by someone or if it's just always simply existed. Now,
Mm,
I'm going back to what I said a few episodes ago, where I think someone made this happen. I think that this is something that has come about through choices that have been made, either through taking Wanda's or Vision's body, Wanda taking Vision's body, or maybe Agnes had something to do with this nexus occurring. I'd like to think that it would be more interesting if it was something created because of a choice someone made, rather than just always existing, kind of thing, if you know what I'm
mhm,
saying. Kind of like how the branches emerge if we didn't put all the stones back in order. So
mhm.
that's what I think about Nexus still.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Endgame, we got a little bit of a taste of that, like going back in time and changing reality, and now
Mhm.
Cap grows old with Peggy, and now, the scene with Hulk and the Ancient One. I think there's a lot of floating around about the multiverse that they haven't really been able to really hone in yet for us, and I think that's good because I don't think we should have all the answers right now. My only worry, the only thing that makes me a little wary is I don't want this to be the ending of every show. I don't want this to be like every show is going to end in like a multiverse or like,
Mm.
I don't want, when we have our first Blade movie, I don't want Mahershala Ali's Blade to run into Wesley Snipes' Blade. And then I
Mm.
don't want, like, especially since we're already pretty much kind of confirmed, getting that with Spider-Man. And like, we're getting that a little bit here with X-Men. It's almost like, it comes to a point where it's a little too much. And I just
Sure.
hope they don't go overboard with it. If there are great moments and if they feel justified and earned, sure. But one of the things I liked about Wonder Woman 84, I know we're crossing over to DC, but is that they did bring in the actress who played Wonder Woman in the original TV series when our parents were younger. That was a great cameo, but they didn't make her Wonder Woman. It wasn't
Mhm.
like Wonder Woman was meeting Wonder Woman. It's just at the
Right.
very end, she's playing a different character who is supposed to have a pretty notable influence on the universe, but it's not like, Diana or Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman was running into this other Wonder Woman. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, we have the same actress. It's just it's a wink. It's a wink to the audiences as a hey, like this is the person you knew from the other Wonder Woman, but it's not Wonder Woman. And it's like if they had brought in like Tobey Maguire as like a mentor to Tom Holland, or if they had him playing Uncle Ben or something, I think that would be pretty interesting. But now you're bringing him in as Spider-Man, and now it's almost like he's kind of overshadowing Tom's movie. We haven't seen it yet, so I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I hope they don't go for that. I hope when we have this new Fantastic Four that they don't feel the need to bring in Jessica Alba and, Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. Like I hope with the new X-Men they don't feel the need to bring in Hugh Jackman out of necessity. I hope it all just has a purpose and meaning. And
Right.
that's all I ask is if this multiverse thing is happening, that there is a meaning behind everything and it's not just for the sake of doing it to show off or doing it to say, hey, you didn't think you'd see this happen. It's
Right.
like dumping out all the toy box and like taking your Tobey Maguire and your Andrew Garfield and like, oh my God, they're in the same room. It's like, no, it has to have more sense than that. Like there has to be
Right. Right.
something
Right.
more to that. And so
Well, I
that's my
think
rant.
once we see it happen here, it's going to be less and less like fun for the audience if it's becomes to a point where it gets predictable, you know? So I
Right.
feel like it's more of just a way now to connect just like these properties now that Disney finally has its claws on the X-Men, as someone else I was talking to put it. Mickey has another stone in his gauntlet.
Yes.
He
I mean, what
got
else does
the
he need now?
MCU.
DC?
Now he has the X-Men. Exactly. Like what could he possibly get next?
Star Wars, Pixar,
No, exactly.
Muppets.
He's collecting them all in his little
Yeah.
gauntlet. So,
No, his name is Mickey Mouse, right there. That's Thanos. That's really Mickey Mouse, but that's the real Mickey Mouse right there. It's Thanos. Okay, so that's the commercial. So basically, multiverse stuff is going to happen.
and Dill, does this connect at all? Did you find that this commercial connected at all to one of the Infinity Stones?
I mean, this would make sense to be the Reality Stone, but we saw with the Lagos commercial that was the Ether, and that was kind of the Reality Stone. So this kind of debunked that. Unless we're getting more commercials, which I'm not sure we will for the last two, because I think, as I said, with the post-credit scene, this is now moving into the more normal movie territory, less of the sitcom nature. So I'm wondering if, this is it for the commercials, and I was wrong. It was a good theory. I think the last one left was what, the maybe the space or the power. I don't remember what was left. Because the toaster was the power. What is the cube? What is the tesseract? That was the soap.
Oh, the soap.
And that's the space stone, right? That's space.
Yes. Okay. So
and then we had
the toaster was power.
Yeah.
The watch was time.
Yes. The soap was the tesseract, which is the space stone.
Space stone.
Then Lagos is the reality stone, because it looks like the ether. And then the last commercial with the skeleton and the red shirt, we put together Red Skull being the soul stone as the sole survivor on that island. What's left?
The Mind Stone.
Okay.
Mind, when you're depressed, your mind is sad.
Okay. Yes. So we're gonna keep up with that. That is the Mind Stone. Unless the ether, the Lagos, was the Mind Stone, but I don't think that would make sense. I think that was definitely reality because it looked like the ether. Or this is a theory that I've spent way too much time on that is just not a real thing.
Hey, I'm still in support of it. I can totally buy that the depression stone. Oh God, I hope there's no depression stone. Lord knows we don't need a depression stone to snap people into depression.
The depression stones were the kernels of popcorn at the bottom of my tub during the credits of Infinity War. Those were the depression stones. I was like,
those are the real.
Oh, yeah. To my buddy Chad, who was watching, I'm sorry about the crunch, the kernel crunch. I know he had a comment about crunchy foods. We had a conversation about crunchy foods in movie theaters a while ago. So sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next.
We're back. Now we're at Agnes's house for the first time ever. We're inside her house. It's very dark, a lot of like warm tones happening. She has a lot of plants around. It just looks very like earth tony and kind of dark a little bit. And Billy says to her, "I like it here because it's quiet. You're quiet, Agnes, on the inside." Let's talk about this.
Yes.
So we know that Billy who later becomes Wiccan, has pretty much the same powers as Wanda. He's telepathic, can get inside people's minds and move things with his mind, I'm sure, eventually. And he said in the beginning of the episode that it was very noisy and that there was too much going around. So I saw a theory about this. I can't take credit for this. I did see this on TikTok, if you will.
Okay. Which we will say our TikToks are now, if you're watching on video, are on the bottom of the screen. We made it happen. I was supposed to do it last week. I forgot. We have our TikToks down there, so follow us, please.
So what I saw was that Billy is hearing all the Westview's residents like real thoughts, like their internal monologues as their people, as like themselves, not their characters that Wanda's made them. And that because Agnes has always been this outside being, Agatha Harkness, has always been this outside being who hasn't been really under Wanda's control, is quiet because she isn't trapped. So she isn't like, screaming internally to get out. She's always, has always been herself.
Yeah. Yeah, I have written in my notes, you're quiet inside because she's not a person within a person. Because, all these people have been people trapped in other people's bodies, I guess, or they're trapped in their own body, but their mind is not the same mind. Because Vision, he puts his hands there, and it snaps you out of it.
Mhm.
And I think when he was doing that to Agnes or Agatha, there was no person inside. So she, we saw in the sequence at the end that was all an act, and
Mhm.
that it's the same person whether you do this or not. For those just listening, I'm poking my temples.
Reenacting.
Whether you do this or not, Agatha is Agatha. So I think it's one
Mhm.
of those things where he's like, if he comes up to, what is his name, Norm, the computer guy.
Yes.
If he goes up to Norm, he hears Norm inside like, "Yo, let me out!"
Yeah.
Kind of what you heard when Vision did the temple thing to him. But Agatha, there's nothing in there. It's her. She's not in someone else's control. She's not a prisoner. Sorry, there's a fly flying around, which is so appropriate for this episode. We'll get to that later. But hello, fly. Thanks for making a guest appearance.
I don't hear it in my headphones still, so I think we might be okay. But
Yeah, I
that's
mean, I
okay
wasn't
because
saying it was
I've also
noisy.
been burping constantly throughout this episode, so I'm so sorry.
It's not even that it was noisy. It's just like I keep seeing like this like black speck just like flying across the
Oh,
screen.
okay.
I'm like, if anyone's wondering, so someone came to hang out for this podcast, and he might have been in the episode. So, yeah.
God,
So
I hope that character's not hanging out in your house still. That'd be awful.
if it's even a character, if it's just a fly, it's just a fly. But I think it's a little more than a fly. We'll get there.
Mhm.
Yeah, quiet inside because there's no one controlling her. I totally buy that.
Totally.
And they're watching Yo Gabba Gabba. Don't forget.
And they are watching Yo Gabba Gabba.
Which, I'll be honest, I never watched Yo Gabba Gabba. That was like a little later than my time, but I feel like they're a little old for that
For
in the
Yo
show.
Gabba Gabba?
I mean, how old are they in the show? Like they almost seem like they're in middle school
I
almost,
think,
maybe a little younger.
remember she said you have to, in order for you to have the dog, you have to be 10. So they age themselves up to 10 years old.
Oh, okay. So 10 makes sense. I
they're
was thinking they were like 14 or something, like middle school going in like
14. They would be
like 7th
very
grade.
underdeveloped and
Okay,
malnourished.
maybe it's just
14-year-olds.
maybe because I don't have kids, I don't really know the whole like
How
what is considered
old you're
young.
supposed to look.
Right, because when I was like 12, I thought I was older, I guess, or 14, I thought I was younger. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
when you're 10, you're what, in the 4th grade?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense
I
for
think
them.
you could be watching Yo Gabba Gabba in the 4th
Yeah.
grade.
Yeah, no,
That's
I
totally
didn't put that
acceptable.
together. I don't, age is bad for me. Like, I could look at someone and be like, "Are you like 80 years old?" And they're like, "I'm only 60, dude." Or they'll be like, "I'm only 40," and I'm like, "Oh, you seem like you're 25." I don't have a good concept of age, so.
I don't have a good concept of, like, if you ask me, if I'm in, like, a room full of people and you ask me how many people are in the room, I'm like, I don't know, 600. Like, I can't, like,
Yeah.
estimate really quickly.
Right, like I assume that anyone who is like, now that I graduated college, it's like if you are in college, you are like a child. Like I see you as almost like a child just because like I feel like you're just so young. I'm like because now I'm out of college, it's like anyone who's still going to school in like college or high school,
Yeah.
like who's younger than me, I'm like always like, "Oh, like look how young they are," when I'm like they're like 2 or 3 years younger than me. I don't know why I'm thinking they're like these 10-year-olds going to college. Like it's just one of those things that once you graduate, it's like everyone who was just a year below you seems like they're like 10 years below you. It's this weird post grad stuff. But
I think because college jaded us a little bit, so now we have a
yeah,
little more life in us. So we
we
look
also
down
spent
at
half
these.
of our
Oh,
senior year on a computer. So
yeah, that's yep,
yeah.
2020, the year that
Yeah, there we
Champy talked about.
All right, so what's next?
So our next scene, we're back.
Is this Monica?
Yes, we're back with Monica. She prepares to break through the hex in the vehicle. She gets all the way there, and we see that, like everything else in Westview, it starts being rewritten to something that's outdated and useless. So it she jumps out of the car. The hex practically spits out the vehicle and says, "You're not welcome." We see that the front of the car has been transformed into like a 2000 style looking truck of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then Monica just decides, I'm just gonna run through it. I'm gonna make a break for it. So as she's running through, we hear lines and flashbacks and things that happened in Captain Marvel. She hears her mother in her head. She's hearing Carol Danvers in her head. She keeps on
Nick
pushing
Fury.
through. Nick Fury's there,
Which is another person. Samuel L. Jackson came to mind when I was giving that example of like, I don't know how old or young you are. He is old, and he does not look a day over like 50. Like he is.
How old is Sam Jackson? Because I would have guessed 50 years old. Honestly, I probably would have guessed like 40, to be honest. I probably would have guessed like 45.
He is 72 years old.
Samuel L. Jackson is not. So, what did you say? 72?
72, right? That's what
He's
I'm talking
not
about.
72.
When I was
He's
making
not.
that example, that was the first person who came to mind because I've always thought Samuel L. Jackson's like this young, spry actor, but he's 72. I mean, granted, we saw him younger in Captain Marvel, like we saw a de-aged version, but he looks good for 72. He looks real good for
Damn,
72.
drop
Good on
that
you, buddy. Like
skincare
that is.
routine, Samuel L. Jackson. We all need that.
Oh
Oh
man,
my
here, yeah.
goodness.
Never mind. I was gonna say I have a Mace Windu something over there, but I don't have time to like go get a prop, and he's not
Oh, okay.
even Marvel. Anyway, so yeah, so Monica hears these voices of Nick Fury, Captain Marvel,
Yes.
Maria Rambeau. This was my favorite moment of the episode because I think this was like a cool way of having an origin story without having the the Doctor Strange approach of you have to learn and master these ways, or like Guardians where it's like we all have to learn how to work together. Even though we're all different personalities, or even Black Panther, where you have to like dethrone someone else and like inherit it. No, this is just I have these molecules in my body. I'm gonna go through this hex, and now she's a superhero. It was that quick, and I honestly
Yeah.
kind of liked it because we've seen so many origin stories like the ones I listed.
Mhm.
Doctor Strange, Black Panther, all those, which are great origin stories, but it's like almost at the point where what else can you do with an origin story? And I thought this was an interesting way to say, here's a new superhero, but we're not gonna like spend too much time dragging out an origin story. It's just she's a superhero now, and that's it.
Right. So she breaks into the hex. She's seeing it in all different colors. She's basically almost seeing it as like a heat sensor almost, and
Mm-hmm.
her eyes are glowing blue. So we know that this now going forward, whenever her powers will be associated with the color blue, whereas Wanda's are associated with red. So now
Mm-hmm.
we're getting into scene 9. We're back with Vision and Darcy. They have stolen the funnel cake truck from the circus, and they're making their way back home, or back to Westview rather. And Darcy's catching Vision up on the last 10 years. She's in the middle of telling him about how he died twice in front of Wanda and how she's had to deal with that. And
I have a
Vision's
question.
just yes,
I have a question.
still. What's your question?
How does she know
That is what
exactly?
I was saying with the other episode from like the first time we ever saw Jimmy Woo and Darcy. They knew so much about what happened in Endgame and Infinity War, and no one else is there on the battlefield. And it's little details like that bother me a little. So
my thought is maybe because War Machine was on Wakanda, maybe he had some sort of way that his suit could record what was going on. But like, I don't know. I mean, like you can retell a story, I guess, to someone, but for her to be so like, oh yeah, no, she ripped it out to save you, but then like, he brought it back to life, and then he ripped it out. Like it's just interesting that someone would be there to capture every single moment, beat for beat. That Darcy would
right.
just know everything that went on. Maybe that's the case. Maybe she does know, and it's just a common knowledge that everyone shares everything that went on. But for such a traumatic moment, I'm surprised she had so much knowledge on it.
I mean, maybe because it was like such a traumatic moment in history, it like had to be
True.
reported on, and like going forward now it has to be taught in schools. Like this happened between 2000 and
Wow. Yeah.
2023 to 2028 is when the
That's a good
blip
point.
was,
Yeah.
or did they or did we get to 2023 in the
I don't know.
5-year gap?
I think it might. I don't know.
So I guess that's how I'm justifying it. It would be like, not reporting an event as big as like, World War II. Like we even though like we weren't physically there, and all of the teachers who teach us about World War II definitely weren't physically there. They have to tell us about like these moments that happen, So
Yeah, that's a good point.
maybe it's something like that. It's just, hearsay, pass through everything. And also War Machine was at both of these events. He didn't get blipped away. So and being a military person, he could very well be the source of all intel.
That was my first thought was, his suit. And also Hulk had the Hulkbuster armor. Like, I'm wondering if with that suit, there's also some sort of recording, like body cam type thing on it. I don't know. But that's not really the point of this scene. It's basically just for her to tell him all the information. I mean, we're looking too into it, but It's interesting that she kind of just said it all. And like Vision, I was expecting that to be a bigger reveal, like a bigger moment of him finding out, like, no, dude, you're dead. Like he already kind of got that with Agatha with when
Mhm.
she was like, you're dead. But like
Mhm.
this time I was waiting for like that moment where Vision's like, wait, what? Like where it all comes back, like the truth comes out. But it was just kind of like one of those things. So, oh, I died twice. Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Well,
Oh,
it's almost like
like
the same thing with that Captain Marvel experiences when she, finally meets up with her friend Marie. Maria.
Maria,
Yeah,
Maria.
Maria. I just watched that yesterday for a video on my YouTube channel, Cause Production.
Nice,
Stay tuned if you
nice.
want to check out my thoughts about Captain Marvel. I
I
just
like
watched
Captain Marvel.
rewatched it. I do too, and
I
I
think,
won't get into it too much here because I'm
yeah.
literally in the midst of making a whole video about it. But
Your video is up there in the top right. You've already made the video because it's already Monday. Wink, wink.
oh well, actually, I haven't because I'm not dropping it. I didn't drop it yesterday.
Oh, so you are making it
I am
for next.
literally when I say in the process of making it, I'm, like, writing it right now.
Oh, okay.
So,
So it has not dropped yet. So you will not see anything in the top right. Do not look at the top right. Please don't.
no, that was a lie. You can look in the top right on our episode that comes out on March 8th, because that is the anniversary of Captain Marvel, so I'm dropping a video about Captain Marvel on March 7th. So that
Cool.
is when the video will be available.
March
Um,
7th. Wait, is that? Hold on.
that's a Sunday.
Um, I believe that's a day after, a few days after the finale. So that'll be the day before we cover the finale for WandaVision. So that'll be fun.
Oh,
Cool.
exactly.
Yeah. All
So
right.
the reason why I bring this up is like she experienced the same thing, like she was brought back onto Earth. She was, getting told about everything about her life, and it's like you don't have any memory of it. So even if someone tells you you died twice, I mean, I guess you would be a little bit like, huh, that's funny because I'm alive right now, but I don't think that it would be as dramatic as like, what? Especially being that like Vision is a robot and they're more
True.
like practical and sensible than like human beings who have deeper emotions, I
True.
guess.
Almost because
But
I guess it's a betrayal in a sense that
mhm,
Wanda brought him back to life, and it's I was just expecting a bigger reveal. But I guess we kind of got that when he like went outside the hex. That was his kind of aha moment. Um, with the people frozen and all. The Halloween was kind of the big moment for him, I
right.
guess. Um,
And he also kind of has a realization moment as well because we cut to a commentary, like a talking head with him, and he's like, I everything that Darcy's telling me about, my wife has had to deal with mere days ago. So
yeah.
what am I doing talking to you people? I need to go be with her because I didn't even
Mm,
realize the extent of how much she had gone through. And the fact that it is so recent, it is just so still there in the forefront of her brain. Like,
true.
I have to stop like undermining her as much and questioning her as much and just be there for her. That's the kind of
Mm,
vibe that I was getting from Vision in this
yeah.
episode.
Yeah. And then we see everyone, the roadblocks coming in and
Yes.
stopping their way.
Right. So let's talk about that. So
Okay.
they start with just a red light, and then construction workers come work on the light, and then school children start crossing the street. Well, this doesn't happen until we cut back with them again. Yes. Yes. Okay. So this happens later. So let's talk about scene 10 first with Monica
Well,
and
we can.
Wanda.
Do you want to just group the Vision stuff together because it's kind of its own separate storyline? We could just talk about the next Vision scene. I know we're going out of
Okay.
order, but yeah, let's just keep talking because Vision. Like I said at the beginning, this is kind of like almost the bridge between episodes. Like this seems like Vision. It was like, what do we do with Vision in this episode? Okay, let's have uh Darcy fill him in on everything that's been going on, so now Vision can finally confront Wanda once and for all. But
Right. So he says in one of his confessionals,
mhm.
uh what does he say? Hold on, I just lost my train of thought. He says, "Oh, I believe my wife is putting up all these obstacles so that I cannot get home." Do
Mhm.
you actually think that it's Wanda who is playing with the street lights, sending in the construction workers, and now
No,
sending these children?
I don't
Neither
think it is.
do I, Dill.
Because we've seen this whole episode, Wanda's like, I don't want to do magic today. I just want to like lay down. It's her
Yes.
hangover. She's like, I just need to lay down. Um,
So
yeah,
some other entity is preventing him from getting to Wanda.
yeah, Basically.
Suspicious.
I mean, I think we know who it might be, but all right.
I mean, but do we though? We'll get there when we
Do
get
we?
there.
We'll get there when we get there.
So scene 10, Monica is runs right into Wanda's house. We see Wanda in the midst of taking a pill. Some people confirmed it to be actually the Nexus pill from the commercial. I tried
Okay.
to, pause and zoom in as much as I could. I couldn't really tell
Yeah.
whether or not it was the pill, but other
Mhm.
people seem to think that it's the pill from the commercial.
But this is where Monica comes in, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
she says, and one is, she's using her power. She pushes her out of the house. She says, "The drone's the missile, Pietro. Like I'm done with you people." And Monica says, "No, no, no. Like Pietro, like he wasn't us." So now we know. Now this moment confirmed to us that Wanda didn't bring him in, and neither did Sword. They had nothing to
Right.
do with Pietro being there, or Uncle
Mhm.
P, or Peter, whoever this guy is. Monica catches herself with her powers. Monica says, "Don't let Hayward, don't let him make you the villain." Wanda says, "Maybe I already am."
Mm,
Agnes catches this confrontation happening outside her window, and she just takes her and says, "You know what? She's had a tough day. Don't bother her right now." And it was like almost just right about as Monica was about to get to Wanda, as they were about to have this moment of like, we're on the same level here, we're on the same page, we want to help each other out. She's getting taken away by Agnes.
yeah.
And
I think it's
Monica,
interesting that Monica like almost found a common ground with her though. I
yeah,
think Wanda is starting to pick up on the fact that like maybe I should listen to her.
yeah,
I think it's out of fear almost the way she reacts sometimes to
Wanda,
Monica at least. Yeah, like when she was like blasting her away, but we did see now she has these powers. She can contradict those.
right.
Um, so yeah, I agree.
And, and it was because she brought up her mother. She was like, "I just went through the same thing you did. I also just lost
Mm,
pretty much my whole world, like my whole life. Like my mom's not here. The closest thing that I had to a second mother, my Auntie Carol, she's not here either. Like I just lost everything as well. So we're like two peas in a pod right now, and I want to help you." And
right.
Wanda has this moment of like, you know what, maybe I should just let this person in. But no, she's getting taken away by Agnes. And but Monica's persistent. She's like, "No, I'm not done with this. I'm following you. I don't care what happens, because
Mhm.
I'm going to get to the bottom of this." So then we finally cut back to really quickly. We cut back to Vision and Darcy, and basically Vision's just like, "I gotta get out of here."
And
Floats right out of
yeah.
the truck, and Darcy's like, "All right, I'll meet you there. Great, thank
Yeah,
you."
I do have a question about Darcy. I guess we could save this for later or right now. It's very quick. Monica went into the hex. She had these like molecular changes where she's getting these powers.
Hmm.
Is Darcy starting to get powers now too because she's inside the hex?
Well, I was, to my understanding, this is how I understood it, because
Hmm.
I feel like Monica's molecules are being rewritten so much and at such like a rate that she is developing some sort of powers, because she went through it twice. She's now gone
Mm,
through it 3 times. She entered it the first time, got thrown out of it by Wanda, and went through it again, where Darcy has only gone through it once. So
right.
maybe her molecules had started the process of being rewritten, but because she didn't get tossed out of it again, and like the rest of the sword agents that got enveloped by the hex didn't go through it multiple times, that their cells and stuff are going to be the same. I mean,
Yeah.
it could be, they could be going along with the comics where Wanda does end up making mutants after she takes all mutants away. She ends up making more. That's a
Hmm.
storyline at some point in the comics, so maybe they are going along with that.
Yeah.
But to my understanding, the reason why other people aren't like walking around with glowing eyes and glowing hands is because they haven't gone through it multiple times.
Right. And I also just think it'd be weird to have that many new super beings introduced. I think that would just be a
Right.
little too much. Okay. So now we're at the big moment. The
Yes.
big moment.
So we're in Agnes's house with Agnes and Wanda. Wanda asks where the twins are. Agnes says, "Oh, let me go make you a cup of tea." They're probably playing in the basement, where Wanda walks down into the basement, and she starts following this dark and gloomy hallway that's littered with vines and twigs and branches and everything. She walks into a room with a statue in the far left corner of the wall. There's a cabinet just of like skulls and bones, and a table with a glowing orange book. And
Mhm.
Agnes comes in. She reveals that she's Agatha Harkness, and that she says something along the lines of, "Did you think you were the only magical girl in town?" My voice cracked. I don't know what happened.
I was not
And
laughing at you. I was laughing at the Agatha thing because it got me giddy. I was like,
yeah,
"Ooh, okay, so we were right. We
yeah.
were on the right track."
So then we cut to this montage of it was Agatha all along. The theme song is, and we cut back
Great
to the
song.
first episode where we see um Agatha gives Wanda a plant, which I thought was significant, was because she does have all this plants. I was gonna, what's the word? Foliage.
Foliage.
Foliage. Thank you. I was
Yeah,
trying to think of that word. It
yeah.
wasn't coming fast enough.
And this
Uh,
is interesting because I think this could be like, is this her way of spying in on Wanda?
yes,
Is this how we
exactly.
see, yeah,
Something
the
along the
sitcom,
lines of that.
the cameras? Yeah.
So like the first episode she gives them a plant, the second episode she lends them her rabbit, the
Mm,
third we see her in the third episode she, does something to Herb. The fourth episode she's behind the reason why Pietro's there. The fifth, and during the Halloween episode we see her, fiddling with her makeup in the car, that she was just putting on this act for
hmm.
Vision.
Which
And
I
then
think, did you mention that or did I that it could be an act?
you I feel like we both might have
I think
just
we were on the
thrown that
fence of like,
possibility out
yeah,
there. We
was
were
it her
going back to,
acting or was
yes,
she actually innocent? And I was leaning toward she's actually innocent. This was the show throwing a red herring at us. I
yes,
think they almost threw that in to mislead us because they probably thought they're all onto the fact that she's Agatha Harkness. Oh, let's subvert their expectations, and then no, you were right, you were right. So I thought it was really interesting how they
right.
just kind of made it obvious, but then we're like, oh, let's make you second guess yourself, and then it was like, no, you were right all along.
No, yeah,
It was
totally.
Agatha all along. Yeah.
And then in this episode, we see that she
Ugh.
was the cameraman behind the camera who asked the question during the
Mhm.
confessional. What was it exactly? Do you think it's because it's what you deserve? Um,
Mm.
and then at the end she says, "And I killed Sparky too."
Whoop.
And sorry, Dale, I should have
uh,
given you a trigger warning for that one. So she does confirm what we all thought was a possibility during that episode, that she did in fact kill Sparky and it wasn't the leaves. And then we get our first ever post-credit scene where
yes, we
Monica is
do. Sorry,
outside.
I was zoned out for like 10 seconds because I was just so sad. Like you've
No,
killed the dog, and now you have to bring it up again, and now you have to
yeah, I
like
know.
laugh and relish in it. Whatever.
Right. So Monica's outside Agnes's house. She goes to open up the cellar doors, and we see the vines and the branches getting, coming out
And
of the cellar doors.
the doors and windows themselves were painted with that blue, the Quicksilver shade of blue. I don't know
Mm,
if you noticed that
mm,
because the
I
next
didn't.
moment, as you'll say in a
Right.
few seconds.
Yes. And then the camera goes back to Monica, and Uncle P, or Peter or Pietro Quicksilver, is there, and he just simply says, "Snooper's gonna snoop," and then it cuts. So that was our episode.
Crazy.
That was our episode 7, breaking the fourth
Nice
wall.
recap. Well done. So I got a lot of Easter eggs. Not as much theories because the theories we've kind of talked about.
I mean,
There's one big theory I think that we should talk about. Um, I'll let you take it away, but let's first discuss the whole Agatha thing, and who is really behind this. Because
yep.
I think that's kind of what you were going with, right?
Yeah. So, well, I walked away from this episode being like, well, I did they answer all our questions though? So I
Not
basically
all
just
of
wrote,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
Like we
So
know that she's bad, and that was kind of the one thing that we were like pretty sure of, which is why again like this was a little underwhelming because we're kind of sure that she was at least Agatha Harkness and she was at least some sort of negative being in some sense.
sure.
Maybe she is doing it for the better of Wanda, or maybe she's working with someone against Wanda. We don't know that for sure. But just by the way Pietro acted at the end with Monica and the way that Agatha had that evil laugh, I feel like she is a villain. She
Mm.
definitely is a villain. It's just what are her actual motives?
I don't know, Dill. I'm not 100% team villain. And I'll tell you
Really?
why. I'll tell you why.
Wow. Okay. All
Because
right.
this is also something that I saw on TikTok. But I know it's like, do I
TikTok.
have any original thoughts? I promise I do. But someone pointed out to me that it was Agatha all along, might not be telling us exactly what we think it's telling us. Someone suspects, whoever made the video, and that I saw that I could be buying, I think I'm on board with a little bit, is that it was Agatha all along is in the perspective of Mephisto,
Hmm.
who is saying Agatha ruined this part, this, she did this, and it's because while he was trying to do negative things to Wanda and Vision, Agatha was in the middle preventing all the bad stuff from happening.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only thing is the dog. Like, that's the one thing where I'm like,
but if Mephisto took the form of Sparky to get inside the house, it would make sense for Agatha to kill the dog so that Mephisto couldn't do that. So then he would be forced
yeah,
to do something else. So
maybe.
maybe I'm still pretty sure that Mephisto has embodied Quicksilver, and that on the last episode,
Yeah.
Peter from from not the MCU, from the X-Men universe is going to just wake up and be like, "How the heck did I get here? Who are you people? What's going on?" I
Yeah.
think that he is being completely possessed by Mephisto. Holy Jesus. I think that he's getting completely possessed by Mephisto, and that he
Yeah, that's a good theory. That's a
you
good theory.
know,
I think
and that Mephisto has just been like taking different forms of different, people and things the entire time to mess with Wanda, and that
yeah.
Agatha has been the person who's been trying to protect Wanda this whole time.
Yeah. I'm in
That's
the
what I
boat
think.
where yeah, that's a great theory. And I'd love to see that come to light. I just think with the amount of time we have left and just the way we have kind of been set up to like have suspicions of Agnes from the beginning, but like they were still painting her out to be like a helpful neighbor. I feel like this is for the normal fans to be like, gotcha. Whereas we have been speculating this, so it's not as much of a surprise to us. But I
Mm.
think this was like the big reveal. It's just because we've been predicting it, we think there's something more. I do think this is it, but hey, who knows? I do think Mephisto is involved, but I do think they might be working together. Just because also she puts that purple hex on Wanda at the end, and that's where I'm kind of like, well,
But I
what
think
is that?
I don't know. I don't think it's as obvious as we think it is, as they've
Yeah,
made it out to be. I really don't, because I think that, like I said, like I think that Marvel's very good at making their TV shows and movies and everything for very smart consumers, for
mm,
for comic book readers, for people who would be suspicious of this character from day one, and to just like make it this obvious. I'm not buying that. I think that it might be kind of what your theory that you had last week, where Agatha's more of a red herring than we think, of like an evil being or the main villain. I definitely don't think
yeah,
that she is the main villain. I think that taking over Wanda's mind and making her eyes turn purple and everything was just to be like, I'm just here to wake you up and tell you that everything that's been going on,
right.
kind of thing. I mean, I
Yeah,
could be very wrong,
no, you're
and
right.
I
I
accept
think
that if I am, but I'm just
yeah,
saying that I'm just not buying that it's as obvious as everyone's making it out to be.
yeah, it could be one of those things where Mephisto and Agatha are both trying to battle for Wanda. Like one's trying to save her, one's trying to get her, and yeah, there's Agatha's trying to like rescue Wanda from Mephisto, and or vice versa. I don't know. I
Right.
do think there is a greater villain. I think Mephisto is going to come into play because I do have one big Easter egg that we are going to talk about right away. Let's get into Easter eggs because I think this will also kind of go into some theory talk. What were you going to say, Kelsey?
Well, last thought I just wanted to say was
Mm-hmm.
that if she was evil, like say that, Agatha Harkness was just this, witch living a very domestic life in Westview, New Jersey, let's say, and then Wanda comes over, takes over her town, takes everyone in her town. If Agatha Harkness is the bad guy, why not just take Wanda out from the beginning? Why play this game and go along with her act and act as this, secondary character in Wanda's life? Why not just be like, no, not in my town, bitch, and just, zap her
It
to
might be because
high
Wanda is
heaven?
so powerful that Wanda is so powerful that she might not be able to just go right away and do that. She has to kind of lull her into her spell. I don't know. And I think both theories are good. I was just taking it at face value, but you're thinking so deep into it, and you could be right. You know, you really could. I think what now? The more you're saying it, the more I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Yeah. So if you want to let us know in the comments if you think Team Kelsey, if you think Agnes is on Wanda's side, I think she might be on her side to some extent. Where like I think she is doing this for the. I don't think she's doing it to hurt Wanda, but I think she's almost using Wanda for her own benefit. But in a way, she might still have like she might not have ill feeling toward Wanda. She just might be using Wanda as her puppet. Yeah, I don't know. Let us know in the comments if you think Agnes or Agatha is really, really bad, or if she's going to turn out to be good. We don't know, but the big thing we're talking about is Mephisto, and I think the most important thing we hinted about a little earlier with the fly that was buzzing around my room.
Mhm.
There's a fly on Agnes's window, on Agatha's window, and I'm pulling up a graphic for you video viewers. Here in the Marvel Wiki, it says right there on the screen, Mephisto is an extra-dimensional demon who first appeared as a fly. So I think that's pretty straightforward. I think,
Right. So
yeah, I think
it definitely confirms that there's kind of a connection. I think that we're knocking at the door here.
And if you notice the colors are a little similar to the Quicksilver colors. So I think I am on that like train of thought of maybe this Quicksilver is Mephisto in disguise, or maybe Evan Peters is playing Mephisto in the MCU and they're using Quicksilver as a way to tell people you think it's the X-Men Quicksilver, but it's not. This is Mephisto, and he just happens to be the same actor. Because we've seen Chris Evans has played Captain America and Johnny Storm in another universe. We've seen crossover. Yeah. All right. So some Easter eggs.
So let's start at the beginning, shall we?
Yeah. Hexagons on the bed sheet. Did you notice them?
Oh, I sure did, Dill. And I knew you'd bring them up, so I didn't write them down. But I noticed that.
From the beginning, the beehive, we've gotten the bees and the flies, and we've seen the hexagon on his on Vision's magic box in episode 2. Hexagons have been a thing. Hexagon, hex. It's all a theme. The milk carton, this missing child thing. Now, I think this is one of the big speculation things we can talk about. Where are the kids?
Right. That was the next question. That was the main question that I had upon finishing this episode.
Yeah, I was trying to tie it into the Easter eggs. Because I was tying it into the Easter eggs.
No, I loved it. I loved the segue. Because listen, I don't want them to be gone forever. I wanted to watch them grow in the MCU and later on become Wiccan and Speed. Speed? I think that's his name. Wiccan and Speed. So I hope that they're just trapped somewhere, or if I'm right about Agnes, maybe she's protecting them somewhere.
I don't know. Yeah, this is on your thought of like Agnes is trying to help her out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm worried that she might have done something to the kids, or at least trapped them somewhere. That's my guess, but
maybe. So do we think that the missing child is actually a missing child, or was that just foreshadowing that Tommy and Billy are going to later on be missing?
I think it was foreshadowing. I also think, remember in the beginning, Jimmy Woo comes to Westview because there's a missing persons report. And this is suggested that like all the people in Westview are missing, but they are still there. So like, I don't know if this is the missing persons report, anything to do with that. I just see them missing and I was like, oh, who's going missing? Who's missing? And then it turns out to be the kids at the end. The kids are not in sight, anywhere in sight. All we see is Agnes, a fly, and a dead Sparky. So
then we see our sugar snaps with the clown on the box.
So there's a double meaning there. Snaps literally being an homage to Mr. Thanos. I don't know why I said Mr.
Mr. Thanos.
Mr. Thanos, sir. Mr. Thanos, can you snap me away, please?
Another stone, sir.
Oh my god.
And then we see
it's early in the morning.
Box. So it's
the clowns.
An homage to the circus.
Right.
That's happening.
And my mom, when we were watching it, because I watch it every day, I watch it at 3 a.m., which is Eastern time. It's midnight for all you lucky California people. But at 3 a.m., I watch it when it drops. I go to bed, I sleep in, and then the next day I watch it with my mom. And my mom was like, why a circus? And I was like, well, it would not make sense to just have new residents here because this part of Westview didn't exist. So I guess it's like the traveling circus. It's someone who's coming in momentarily. So the a few gaming devices. Did you notice what gaming devices those were? Let's see if you recall those, Kels. Did you?
Well, I think one of them was it looked like the big clunky ones that are for, like, the GameCube,
So there
and
were
then
GameCube controllers, and then
and then
Atari, which is
a
before our time.
joystick. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Atari,
Oh,
Atari controller. My mom knew what that was.
you didn't play on a joystick?
I played some of the joystick games. Like they had their they almost sold. They used to sell like the SpongeBob game, and it was just a SpongeBob game, and his nose was the
Yeah, yeah,
joystick.
yeah. Had
But
that, had that.
but I think Atari, like that was the Atari controller, was that joystick.
I
Um,
think that I had that because I remember that was one
yeah,
of the first, excuse me, games that I ever played.
right.
I played
Well, you've
Sonic
also
with
got
that.
older siblings. You've got older siblings, so that would make
Oh,
sense.
right, you're the oldest.
Yeah, so
I
I was
forget,
like
yes.
the first gaming devices in my childhood with my brother and sister was the GameCube. So I was like,
Okay,
"Oh, GameCube, cool." I didn't
got
even
it.
have a Game Boy. I was a little after the Game Boy.
Yeah,
Um,
I had a Game Boy just because my brother did, and
yeah,
he's
we're making a lot of you listeners feel a lot older. I'm so sorry. But Atari, and then we see the Uno card. So it's like
yes,
before video games even were a thing.
right.
Um, yeah. Okay. So I think the next thing I have comes a lot later in the episode. What do you have next? Any
Well,
Easter
let
eggs?
me listen. I wrote down everything that we see in the intro. So
Okay.
if you will, this is everything that is written or has the name Wanda or spells out the name Wanda. I wrote down
Right.
everything. So we start with a hello, my name is Wanda sticker. Then it's a street sign. It spells her name in the clouds. It's written on a VHS tape. It's iced on a cake. It's
Hmm.
written in peanuts. It's written on a license plate. And the number, this is where Numbers Girl is going to strike again. We
Numbers
see
girl.
120, 822 written on above the Wanda on the license plate. And this is actually a date. It's 12/28/22, which is Stanley's birthday. So a
Aw.
little
Good.
homage and
Aw.
nod to our good old dear
Aw.
granddaddy Stan Lee.
Man, rest in
Um,
peace.
rest in power, my dude.
Yeah, right.
So then it is her name is typed on a computer. It's written on a label. It's written on a sign that's a sorry we're closed sign, but instead it says sorry we're Wanda sign. It's
Okay.
An Italian storefront style. It's written in chalk, and then we cut to it's cut out in like ransom note style lettering, where you cut out all the lettering from different
Yeah.
magazines and stuff, and then it cuts. So it says Wanda, and then it cuts to more lettering that says, "I know what you are doing, Wanda." It's very quick. I was like, "Whoa!" They just like gave me a subliminal message. I need to pause that again.
Right.
Then we see it on a Wanda steak and fries sign. It's written in refrigerator magnets on a sticky note on a Las Vegas style sign. It's in a fishbowl on a chest on a keyboard, another store, in balloons, on a mailbox, and then finally we end on a mug, which I believe is a nod to the mug
The
in
Office. Yeah.
Michael's best world's best boss mug. And then finally on a calendar where there is a heart around a specific date, they've wrote a heart around Friday the 10th.
Okay.
So I tried to look into Friday the 10th. Not much was coming up. So
Right.
I just kind of have a guess and a little bit of a theory about this. So I
Okay.
looked into the future months to see when's the next time we're getting a Friday the 10th. And we're not getting the next 10th that falls on a Friday isn't until September 10th. September 10th, 2021. That is the next time the 10th falls on a Friday. So I think that this might just be a nod to a lot of people thought that this might be a nod to the heart that's written in the first episode when they have the meeting or the dinner rather with Mr. Hart. But I think that they might be saying like the creators, Kevin Feige. Oh, I should know that. Might be saying, hey, look out for something on September 10th, this coming September. So maybe it's a nod, maybe we'll be getting a trailer of some sort, maybe a movie. Um I think that maybe it might not have to do with WandaVision at all. I think they might just be because I don't think that it would make sense in context of the WandaVision universe to, tease something that happens on September 10th, 2021, just because it's not the year 2021 in WandaVision. And also we are past the point of September since we just had a Halloween episode. So technically in Westview, it's now November 1st since our last episode was seemingly the 31st of October. So I think that it might be the
I'm
creator.
back. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
I can
sorry.
hear you.
I had to duck out for a second. My AirPods were dying, and I needed to really quickly throw them into the charger for a minute. And now they're all at 95%. The beauty is they charge real fast, but they die pretty quickly. So I'm back. I'm sure you had great ideas. Finish up what you were saying. I'll go back and listen later. I don't need you to repeat yourself, but let me know the tail end of what you were saying.
Well, I was just going on about my Friday the 10th theory.
Okay.
So basically, I think that they might be teasing at something for us to look forward to, maybe a trailer, maybe a movie, maybe the start of a new show on September the 10th, 2021. So maybe we have that to look forward to.
In a
And
long ways away. Okay.
yeah, exactly. But the people at the MCU, right? They got to be planners, so I wouldn't put it past them to have something planned for September. And that was all that I had for the intro, my Easter eggs. Let me
Okay.
make sure. Yeah, that was it for the intro. So, Dill, what's your next Easter egg?
So one of the trucks that was stopping Darcy and Vision, it
Yes.
had the BBH on it. Did you
Uh,
look into that at all?
I tried to read what it said and I couldn't understand. I couldn't make it out, so I didn't.
I couldn't either. So all I came to mind was whenever we both do a lot of theater, and one time I did a show of the Three Little Pigs, and in the script, Big Bad Wolf was abbreviated as BBW, and that made me think BBH, Big Bad Harkness.
Oh,
That was
okay.
what I took away. It is probably not true, but
Sure,
you know what?
maybe.
That's what that means, and that because I said it, that's what that means.
Great. I love it.
Um,
Um,
anything else?
the S that was written on the
Ah,
muscle
yes.
man's belt.
Hmm.
I don't know what that could have meant. I tried to look into it. Nothing really. I didn't even know really how to Google that. And I didn't
Because
see
all
out
you'll
of
get would be Superman, and
exactly,
that's a different universe.
exactly. And all the Easter egg articles that I looked at, no one else had it, so maybe it doesn't mean anything and I'm just like really looking into these episodes way too much. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was it for me as far as Easter egg
Okay,
goes.
so there are three more big things to talk about on
Okay,
my end.
lay them on me.
So
I'm
we talked
excited.
about the milk. We talked about the milk. Okay, Agatha all along. The theme song. My mom actually pointed this one out. Again, thank you, mom, if you're listening. I love you. The Munsters theme is very similar to the Agatha
Mm,
all along. It's a very similar style. The
mhm.
way it was shot. So that was in homage to the Munsters, which is another sitcom that they wanted to pay homage to. Nexus. We talked about Nexus. Okay. Did you see what the delivery man had on his chest? There was a guy
Presto.
with boxes, Presto, and that made me think of the bunny, Agatha's bunny, Presto, out of a hat. There's just a lot of little subtle foreshadowing that I don't think means much except for subtle foreshadowing. So I was like, oh, Presto, magic, bunny.
Mm,
But maybe are the kids in those boxes? Like, what's in those boxes? I don't know. I'm just trying to think where are the kids? And
yep.
yeah, he showed up with the boxes. I was like, well, I mean, are they in there?
You think Tommy and Billy are in boxes being pushed by
I
the
don't know. I
mailman?
don't know where they are. I mean, she killed a dog. I mean, you can't do any worse than that. So, um,
Maybe.
even if she put him in boxes, that's still not the worst thing that she's done. She's killed an animal. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, and it was a dog. It's not like a fly that you swat away and you're like, oh shoot, I just killed that fly. You feel bad, but a dog, come on. Um, I don't condone any killing of any animals, but if a
If you're
fly and a
gonna
dog.
kill something, it better be a fly.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's Mephisto. It's like
Yeah.
it's like
Definitely take that
when
guy out.
the rat brought back Ant-Man. It's like you're a rat and you just saved the MCU. You saved the MCU.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so this is the big one I want to talk about.
I'm
So you
excited.
saw the book. You saw the book.
Yes.
Do you know anything about any book in Agatha and what anything could mean in terms of book?
Um, I saw a theory regarding the book. I didn't really buy it though.
Okay.
So,
So a lot of people are saying online that they think I did research this. Some people think it could be the Darkhold. And now what the Darkhold is it's a book that it basically the purpose of the book, it created vampires, it created werewolves, and it created other supernatural stuff within the MCU. And I think this would be interesting if the MCU does want to go in a more supernatural direction.
mm,
Vampires, werewolves. We see Blade. Blade is about vampires. We're gonna see Blade in this universe. Moon Knight might have something to do with werewolves. I think this could be
mm,
a tease of, oh, this is what's to come with that. But the problem is, they did show the Darkhold in Agents of Shield and in Runaways, which are two of the Marvel series before Disney Plus came about. Those were two of the Marvel series, and it didn't look the same. So I at first was like, this could be the Darkhold. These people are onto something, but it doesn't look like it did in the other shows. And I know Marvel, they like to keep as much continuity as they can. So I went even further and I was like, where have I seen books that look like that? And I kid you not, I went on Disney Plus late last night and I scrolled through every single movie, just like literally just took my mouse and like kind of dragged it along the bottom just to see
yeah.
if anything popped up.
Yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
finally got to Doctor Strange and I went, that's it. That's where I saw it. So
Okay.
I have an image for you audio listeners if you want to tune into the YouTube video. It's about 1 hour and 20 minutes in. So you can check it out. Here we go. So when he is there, can you see it? It's a little faint. It's a little
Yes.
dark,
The books
but
in the hexagons.
the books in the hexagons, that's right, hexagons. And this is a screen grab from the actual movie, so it might be a little blurry because Doctor Strange, it was in motion. But in the middle, on the bottom row that you're seeing, you can see there is a book missing. And
Oh.
my initial thought, because we see Wong when he's picking out all these books for Doctor Strange, he's taking them down and showing it to them, but he never went in that area. So there was a
Mhm.
book already missing. Now maybe someone already checked it out and they're just reading it leisurely, and it means nothing. Or
Yeah.
this could be the missing book. I'll bring it up one more time for you YouTube people watching. If you turn the brightness up and look real close, you might be able to see there is a missing book. So my theory is that this is the book that was stolen from the Ancient One, and
Mm.
this could be the book that we're seeing because Sorcerers is Doctor Strange and Agatha is a witch, and this is supposed to lead into the Multiverse of Madness, which is a Doctor Strange movie. That is my
Right.
big theory of the day. I'll admit, I should have initially thought to go right to Doctor Strange, but for some reason I couldn't think. I was like, I've seen a book like that, and
Right.
I just had to just search my brain, and I knew it wasn't Iron Man, but I like went through Iron Man. It took about like 2.5, 3 minutes per movie of just scrolling through at high speed. And I finally, when I got to
Yeah.
Doctor Strange, I was like, oh, duh, of course it's Doctor Strange. I mean, this is about sorcery. So I'm not, wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but I did get there. And I think a lot of people are saying it's the Darkhold. It could be, but I think this is the book from Doctor Strange that went missing. I could be wrong. I'm probably
Mm.
wrong. I don't know, but that's
That
what
would
I'm
be
going with.
some very intense planning they had to have this very specific shot to showcase the missing book to then lead up to WandaVision. But like I said before, I do not put it past the creators of the
um,
MCU at all.
yeah, so that was all I had in terms of Easter eggs. I mean, again, this episode was a bridge episode that I felt really is going to bridge the middle climax with Pietro and that whole storyline into the finale, which is going to be
Mhm.
the next two episodes. I'm saying finale as in like final act, not the finale
Mhm.
episode, because we're 2 episodes away.
Right.
Um, but that's what I'm rolling with, and that's what I'm going to go with for now. Kelsey, any last thoughts? Any last theories?
I'm just excited to find out more answers about Agatha. I'm excited to see if I'm going to get proved right or proved very, very wrong, which I accept is fine. And I'm
Here's the thing.
excited to find out what happens to Tommy and Billy and just to get more and more answers as these last two episodes come.
The thing is, we've been so wrong, and we've also been so right in some
Hmm.
scenarios. Like we were right that Agatha was Agatha Harkness. Like we got that. I mean, we had a little help from the internet here and there, but like we've generally been along the same path. Like the hexagons, we were talking about hexagons before the hex was the term being used. Like
Right.
we've kind of read into some things, but some things have come completely out of left field. The Pietro thing we didn't think was going to happen, and that happened. So I do think we still have some big surprises up our sleeves, up their sleeves, up around the corner. Do you think I know they've been teasing this big cameo. Do you have any idea what you think this big cameo might be coming either
I
next episode or the one after?
I just finished the X-Men movies. So
Mhm.
if they are including in the X-Men to the MCU, a lot of people think that the big reveal at the end might be Magneto,
Mm,
Peter's father.
okay.
Um, so it might be we might see an Ian McKellen or a old Michael Fassbender maybe. But a lot of people think that it's going to end up being Doctor Strange, Ben, our good old Benny C. So
My only thing, they're comparing it to, if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, I'm sorry, but they're comparing it to Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian, and I think that moment was much like it's your second next to Darth Vader, your second most popular icon, maybe next to Han Solo too, but you're one of your most iconic characters. And I think Doctor Strange, because we know this is going into Multiverse of Madness, I don't know if this would be a Luke Skywalker level
mm,
cameo. I mean, I think it'd be awesome to see, but at the same time, it's like I almost expected the end of the series to end with whatever is going to happen with Doctor Strange, even if it's a post credit scene.
right.
I was always in the mindset that we are going to see Doctor Strange in a post credit scene at the end, and it's going to say Wanda will return in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That's where my brain has always been at.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm trying to think of like next level cameos because we saw all of these guys in Endgame. So the only people that we haven't seen in a long time, Edward Norton as the Hulk, which is not going to happen.
Okay.
Terrence
Debunked already. You're like, no,
Terrence
not gonna
Howard
happen.
Terrence Howard as War Machine, which is not going to happen just because they aren't interested in being in this universe.
Uh huh.
Agent Coulson, which we did just see in Captain Marvel, like the character. Every other character I feel like we've seen in Endgame,
Hmm.
unless it's like a villain from an earlier movie or like a Killmonger, but even then, we just saw them. So it's like I don't know who you could bring in that would be a Luke Skywalker level cameo,
Hmm.
unless it's someone from another universe. Like you said, Magneto would be a great guess. Maybe this is where we are introduced to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Maybe this, who knows?
Give me a
Uh,
break.
maybe he'll come in with the arrows.
Come in dancing with his
uh,
hair in front of his eye.
mm, yeah, come on. Um, so it'll be interesting to see. Maybe it's going to be one of the monsters from Yo Gabba Gabba. We don't know. Imagine just
Well,
Yo Gabba Gabba. They just walk in
oh my
to the
goodness.
hex. Who knows? But we're gonna get a cameo apparently in the next two episodes. It's gonna like rock our socks off, and I'm sure it's none of these people we mentioned, and we're gonna be like absolutely shooketh. They're gonna
Yeah.
like reimpose Stan Lee like they did with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. They're just gonna have a CGI Stan Lee walk in.
Oh my
Who
god. They
knows?
better not do me like that. I don't
Yeah, I
think I
know.
could handle a CGI Stanley.
Yeah, I really don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna be exciting. So Kelsey, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Koz Productions, KOZ Productions. Same name with the TikTok. If you want to follow me on TikTok, KOZ13 on TikTok.
And you can find me at Dylan underscore Randazzo at Twitter, at Dylan Randazzo 417 on TikTok. I post not just movie reviews, I post little 1 minute movie reviews, but I've started to kind of just do my movie reviews on the channel. But there are old reviews from last year, 1 minute movie reviews, there are cooking videos and singing videos, so please check those out. And you can check me out, as always, here on the Dill Pickle Movie Network. This upcoming week, I will be giving you my Golden Globes predictions. I have not been sleeping much because I've been catching up on all these movies, and they've all been so good. Some of them have been atrociously bad. I'm hoping to maybe get a review for one of those movies sometime in the week. It rhymes with Flusick, and its director rhymes with Pia. So I may be talking about that later on the channel
Great.
sometime this week. And then I will be, of course, giving you all my Golden Globe predictions at the end of the week. If you're watching me on YouTube, I just posted a review for Minari and Nomadland. You can find that in the top right corner that way for two movies that are going to be talked about a lot this award season. And as always, you can find us here every Monday on Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. Next week, we'll be talking about episode 8. The week after, we'll be talking about episode 9. And then the week after that, we will be talking about all the villains in the MCU. We have 30 of them, and we have ranked them all by a rubric, and we are going to come up with a definitive list of our top 30 villains in order. It is going to be a lot of fun. So until next time, I'm Dylan,
And I'm Kelsey.
and we'll see you then.